Frank. Today, we're going to talk about threads. I think that Threads might be one of the most depressing movies I've ever seen in my entire life. It starts off, first of all, with a voiceover over some very interesting shots of spiders and society and things like that. And basically, it's trying to say that all of society hangs by a thread.
In an urban society, everything connects. Each person's needs are fed by the skills of many others. Our lives are woven together in a fabric.
One that could basically go away at any moment, which is more or less the plot of the film. We hang by a thread, and that thread gets pulled, gets cut, and society... Oh. Sorry, I made myself sad. It is by far the most powerful of nuke movies. The Day After, Testament, Countdown to Looking Glass. Threads does it with more graphic effectiveness and haunting horror than the other three thrown together. And I think that's true. That's a quote from People magazine, and a masterpiece as described by the New York Daily News. So, Threads, the story of global thermonuclear war and its aftermath. Such cheery subject matter. An unthinkable horror has been put on the film in one of the most powerful statements ever made. Accurate, scientifically factual, shockingly realistic. This drama is like nothing ever before seen. Threads, the fragile fiber that connects each and every man, woman, and child among us. Destroyed. Gone. Can you possibly imagine such devastating finality? I couldn't until I saw it. And then, don't even try. It actually says, don't even try. So don't try it. Don't do it! See it, because the closest you ever want to come to atomic war is Threads. Luna, my cat has her face in a box. She's got it. She's good. You good? Are you good? Okay, good. Great. It was made in 1985. That's the year I was born, funny enough. 110 minutes. Also available in Spanish. So if you speak Spanish and want to be utterly depressed, you too can. I'll just show you the back of the box there for a second. Let that sit on camera for a moment if you want to take a look. The back basically has a number of different depressing images. One guy sitting in some rubble, and a bunch of people in what looks like a makeshift hospital being depressed. This is by far, I think, one of the most British films I have ever seen. I mean, bar none. I think it is insanely British. It is sad. It is extremely factual, dispassionate, and kind of depressing, but also unintentionally funny, and somewhat maybe even intentionally funny. I couldn't tell in some places. It had a Monty Python-esque kind of feel in some places. But let's get to the plot and the setting. So it's all set in the UK, outside Sheffield. And then also I think there was, Nick, do you know? I think there was some. Holy shit! What are you? What's he doing here? Also, Doncaster, I think, came up once or twice. It travels all over, but mostly around Sheffield. So we open up on this couple that is in a car listening to Johnny B. Good, of all things, overlooking Sheffield.
Oh, I'd love to live out in the country, wouldn't you, Jimmy?
Some facts come up on screen. There are a lot of there's a lot of on-screen text describing throughout the film what's going on, where it's going on, how it's going on, and how much is going on. Which is good, because I guess otherwise you might be very lost without all that exposition. So the filmmaker was very keen on making sure that we understood when it was going to start, because it's very descriptive on where you are date-wise. Tells you exactly what's going on, all the way from March of, I think, 3rd or something like that, all the way to 13 years later eventually, maybe even longer. It might even stretch out, and a lot of crazy stuff goes on. But we kind of start off with this this background. We start off with this background of the conflict between the U.S. and Russia in Iran.
This film, shot secretly by a West German television crew on Tuesday, shows one of the Soviet convoys on the move in northern Iran.
There is a conflict going on, and this is, again, the height of the, or excuse me, this is at the tail end of the Cold War. And so there, I think there's still some tensions pretty high. The wall's about to come down and whatnot. We start with this war, this proxy war going on in Iran. And the U.S. and Russia are competing interests over the soil, and eventually war starts breaking out. And it keeps cutting between the two characters that you meet in the beginning that are in the car, this young couple, and kind of mostly the movie follows them. But it also loosely goes with some other characters. It goes with the couple's families, and then some other ancillary characters pop in here and there, just to give some context, I guess. It also follows a group of people, a group of politicians that are local to the Sheffield area, I believe.
Britain has emergency plans for war. If central government should ever fail, power can be transferred instead to a system of local officials dispersed across the country.
And it kind of describes how the breakdown of communication, it breaks down, how the communication would end up happening and the government would end up functioning in the event of a nuclear war. And spoiler, it eventually gets to that. Like I was saying earlier, this is all very, very dry, very British while this is going on. So it's important to keep in mind. Not a lot of humor to be had.
And is said to be able to...
Come to give me a hand then.
No, gents. Done enough for one day. I'm knackered.
Not too knackered to be going out, though, I see.
It's different, isn't it?
I suppose you've talked about an abortion.
And it just gets... And, sorry, I'm back. It just was we'll definitely get there. So this young couple, I think they kind of suggest that the girl's pregnant in the beginning while they're in the car listening to Johnny Be Good. And we eventually get to a point where they meet each other's parents.
Has alarmed many people by seeming to confirm that something very serious.
Mum, Mrs. Kemp, Mr. Kemp. Nice to meet you. How do you do?
How do you do?
There's this whole background, and you kind of hang out with the guy character for a little while, meet his family, and talk about some of the things of the day. It just provides context of, they're talking about the war, they're talking about the situation in the country. Of course, they're talking about the fact that these two are unwed, but are possibly going to be soon. There are a lot of intercut scenes between the family and military installations giving context on the war.
The United States government has been forced, reluctantly, to take action to safeguard what it believes are legitimate Western interests in the Middle East.
And like I said earlier, there's a lot of text popping up on the screen to tell you exactly where you are, what's going on. What military movements are going on the ground in Iran, what are the troop numbers, what are all that stuff. It's all getting put on the screen. So you're getting cuts between the family and then this escalating war tension going on. It also cuts to a number of protests that are going on at the same time about nuclear war.
Total annihilation. You cannot win a nuclear war!
I think it's trying to make a comment with these protests, a lot of protests going on, about nuclear war at the time and kind of the fears that we still have and concerns that we still have about nuclear war. So again, nothing funny about this, unless you're really, really a nihilist. There's nothing hilarious about this movie at all. I was hoping that I would get something out of this, of a comedic value, and I swear to God, very, very, very little made me laugh in this movie. It just kept getting more, sorry. Bouts of intense depression keep hitting me when I really think about what happened in this film. Okay, so, when we get to about this, it goes off in the atmosphere. It doesn't immediately hit the ground. So a lot of the fallout comes from the atmosphere, and there are other bombs that go off in the there's a lot of different stuff going on, and I know the war, it gives, again, painful detail about how many people are killed, how many bombs are dropped, how many megatons are in these nukes. It's really, I mean, the guy who did this put a lot of research into it. This was co-produced by Western World Television, the BBC, and the Nine Network in Australia. It was written by Barry Hines and produced by Mick Jackson. I'm not too familiar, but the writing of this, despite the fact that, I mean, I guess this isn't going to be really funny or fun subject matter anyway, but it's really well written for the fact that he did a hell of a lot of research went into making this film and into the military aspect of it and all of the stuff that comes up on screen. A lot of exposition in the form of chyron or in the form of on-screen text. I had actually mistakenly said that the bombs dropped at 30-minute mark. They drop at the 50-minute mark. At about 30 minutes, you're getting into a lot of the details about what would happen if the war happens, which you know it's going to. You know it's leading up to that. And there's a lot of preparation, and it talks about, again, what the government plans to do, where it's going to source food, all of these things come into play. So we're talking about that, and then at about the 50-minute mark, the bombs drop. And again, very detailed in terms of what happens when the bomb drops, where it drops. It actually, there's an airburst detonation in the atmosphere.
These have gone.
They talk about how many casualties, where, and then the war starts stepping up between the U.S. and Russia. More bombs are dropping all over the place.
Hell.
And things really start going to hell. During one of the bomb drops, it cuts to people seeing the blast and a lot of people going blind from the immediate fireball, which is, that's a true fact. If you don't know anything about this, don't look, do not look at a nuclear explosion. Do not look at a nuclear explosion if it ever happens. I hope it never happens, but do not fucking look at it because it will make you go absolutely blind. That is a fact. Which I guess would mean you'd have to know exactly when it was going to happen in the first place. A lot of details here that might not pan out for you, so just watch yourself. But one woman, they cut to her urinating down her leg. Again, any other moment that might be somewhat comedic. In here, it just was not. Wasn't funny at all. Were you laughing, Nick? I wasn't laughing. I don't have to have a reason for having Nick Cage behind me. I hope you know that. You might ask. I'm never going to tell you, and I don't have to have a reason. I don't have to have any reason for this. It's just I do it. It's just going to happen. So it goes into also a lot of visual detail about what happens when the bomb drops and exactly how much destruction would happen. Basically everybody dies. I want to say like 2/3 of everybody, maybe even 4/5 of everyone is going to die. It's basically what this is telling you. Very, very depressing information if you ask me. So we learn that's going to happen, and we kind of find out that this couple that we were following in the beginning, the guy I think dies. I don't even know if it honestly shows it. He ends up biting it, and it's just the girl and her family.
Come and help me clean, Grandma. Rose, be careful with that, love. You don't know how long it's going to have to last us.
Go on, Ruth. Don't just sit there. Do something. Go on.
And the dad's not doing very well. The mom's not doing very well. Everyone is sick from the fallout or extremely injured from the initial blast. Very realistic. It's going into a lot of detail, and it's making sure that it covers its bases in terms of what would actually end up happening if a bomb was to drop like this, or a number of them. And I think, like I said earlier, maybe I mentioned it, the movie says a lot of bombs are dropped. Like, a lot of bombs. So Worldwide, it's not looking very good, but again, this focuses on the UK, so it's particularly going into detail about how it sucks for them. One thing that they make a point to cut to is the government preparation, the offices that they kind of cut to in the beginning. This government official that's trying to decide exactly how he's going to handle the breakdown of society, the breakdown of communications. They show that they have some various on and off radio communication between some of the towns still available, but the government officials that we were following don't have any access to the outside. The initial blast traps them in the basement of the building that they were in.
All the people here will be dead already. It's completely flattened. Round here, 50% will still be alive, but here, they're as good as dead already.
In the bomb shelter. So they're having to make all of the calls that they make for their area down there. And over time, food starts to run out, supplies are running short, and they keep cutting to this portly character, this portly gentleman, who keeps making a point to say, can't save everybody, and I think this might be social commentary.
The food stocks are not going to last long. A lot of people just didn't stock up.
How could they? The bloody shops were empty.
And now they're coming out of the shelters. I know it sounds callous, but I think we should hang on to the little food we've got.
I'm not going to lie. It feels that way. That they're trying to have this fatter gentleman say that everybody that's basically outside can fend for themselves. Well, they have food, and they know that they're going to be okay. But that, of course, they can't save everybody. While the other guys in the room are kind of trying to have a little bit of humanity left, despite the fact that there might not be anything left to be done for anyone. They keep saying, like, oh, there's people in this particular radiation zone, they're going to be dead within a few days, or they're going to be dead within this amount of time. So there's really no point to helping them. I don't know if that's a dreadfully realistic look at this, cynical, if that's supposed to... I'm sure it's a commentary on behalf of the writer. But I also can't tell if they're trying to say anything more than that, but they very well could be. But again, no humor or comedy to be had. Up until the very end, I'm going to save that, though. We cut to a lot of people sick, a lot of people dying.
Oh, I wish I were dead. Wish it were me.
Can you manage that?
All right, put it down in a minute. Put it down again.
Really, we're carrying this. The whole commonality between all of this is the girl, the initial girl character. Wait, her name is Ruth. Ruth is the one that's basically carrying the story throughout. She's wandering at a certain point. A lot of people are getting sick after the bombs drop. Her family is sick or dying. I think at a certain point her grandmother dies. They have to put her outside of the room. That they're all, I mean, a room, it's very loosely called that. Everybody's living in rubble. People are all over the streets. Like, there's a couple ventures outside. It shows people looting. Things are not going generally well for everyone. So it's following her, though. Essentially, it comes to a point where, again, there's a lot of just depressing imagery of a lot of disaster, a lot of people starting to die off, get sick, go hungry, and it follows her out of town eventually because her grandmother dies, her family ends up just starting to die. She wants to go look for her husband because she believes that he is out there. She wants to go find her husband. She believes he is out there somewhere and goes to find him, but is basically unable to do so. Finds out, I don't even know if she even really ever finds a real satisfying conclusion that he's dead. And by the way, she's pregnant this whole time. So she's having morning sickness, she's trying to find fresh water, fresh food. Very difficult, almost nothing available. Just, if they find canned food, they have to beat it against rocks to open it. There's really nothing they can do about it.
Mandy!
And it's really, 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 really depressing. At a certain point, we get to the people downstairs, those government officials, basically saying there's nothing left, and everything that's left is only for government services and essential personnel, military only. The military is still fine, by the way. They're out there guarding food and other facilities, And they start to show the disorder that grows by the people that are left alive trying to raid these facilities and or break into them.
Disperse and go back to your homes.
One round of Batman.
Because nothing is left. You can imagine that there would be very little left edible, or you definitely can't plant. They go into talking about how they're unable to plant crops and harvest, and that the nuclear winter that goes on makes it almost impossible to do anything. And they really do. Nuclear winter is a real term.
Hanging in the atmosphere, the clouds of debris shut out the sun's heat and light. Across large areas of the northern hemisphere, it starts to get dark. It starts to get cold.
It becomes, there's so much ejecta from the nuclear explosions that it blocks out the sun and creates winter so that you can't plant anything. So lots of people that don't die from the initial blast end up dying of hunger, which again is depressing. The movie goes into a lot of factual detail the whole time about how many people are dying from starvation, what the world's condition is in, how food supplies have gone, how water is impossible to find, all this stuff. And again, Ruth is pregnant, trying to find her way. Eventually she does, and eventually she starts to become part of the rebuilding of society. And all the while raising a child, who you come to find out, because of all the radiation and all of the fallout and all the bad food and bad water she was eating and drinking, that Ruth was eating and drinking, her daughter becomes mentally handicapped.
Ruth. Work. 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 Up.
And then eventually, fuck. There's a rape scene. I don't wanna, oh God. There's just I thought the BBC was going to leave it out. I was hoping they would leave it out, but of course they had to just throw it in. Of course, it's of a mentally handicapped daughter. She watches, I don't know what happens first, if she gets raped or her mom dies first, but the daughter of Ruth has to watch Ruth die, because she's probably in her 40s at this point, and dies of radiation sickness. She just looks awful, missing teeth, gaunt face, dead, like white, hair all messed up. It looks awful. Watches her mom die. I think after that, sadly, she gets sexually assaulted. She gets raped by this other guy, and then she becomes pregnant. Now we're into basically what looks like medieval times. Everybody's wearing back to medieval clothes. Everybody looks weird. It almost starts to look like a joke at this point. We get to this feudal-esque society. We can't tell if there's any leaders, any rulers. People are just suffering and depressed, and it's really hard for anybody to make food, get food, do anything. Their crops aren't great, but they're starting to grow stuff. Again, more information's coming up on screen to find out exactly what's going on. And we get to... Ruth Ruth died. This, I can't even remember her name, but we find out that Ruth's daughter, after she becomes pregnant and is trying to live her own life in this, we find out that Ruth's daughter is living in this disturbingly post-apocalyptic scenario, and that she basically has had to make her own go of it after her mom passed. And again, mentally handicapped, she can't speak properly, she has, I guess, trouble. They don't really ever say what it is, obviously, but she has this kid. God damn it. The very last scene of this movie, after all this shit has gone on, is Ruth's daughter giving birth to a mutant pile of bloody goo and screaming freeze frame. And yeah, that's what happens. Everybody's dead. The world does not recover. And that's it. That's it. That's basically all that happens in Threads. The world is unprepared and goes to shit quickly, and we're not really able to do anything about it. We're all living by a thread, and if we think that there's anything that we can do to stop our impending doom, apparently there isn't. That's what this movie had to tell us. It's basically pointless. So we better just hope that we never go to nuclear war with anybody, because it would not turn out well for anyone. And I think that's really the honest, best takeaway for anybody to be having from this film. Just don't let it happen. And I guess that's where I become the saddest, because of the world as it currently sits. Anyway, yeah. Threads. Watch it. Don't watch it. I don't know what to tell you. If you're into really realistic depictions of thermonuclear war and its aftermath, Threads is for you. If you are not into that, I would save 2 hours of your life and watch something a little happier. Thanks for watching Video Hell Show, and next time I'll try to do something a little more fun, but I can't promise anything. Have a good one.
Hell.